Our moderator, Mr. Nitin Singhal, is already present on stage from Sinch. He is the managing director. May I also request all our panelists to join him very quickly on stage. Mr. Abhinav Jha, Head of Business Development Communication Partnerships, Google India. Mr. Anand Bhatia, Chief Data and Analytics Officer, HDB Financial, Customer Engagement, Digital Transformation and AI. Mr. Krishna Kota, Head of Marketing and Customer Experience, Consumer Banking Group, DBS Bank India. CEO, Paytm, Mr. Vijay Shekhar Sharma, and Executive Director, RBI. They're not here? Okay. Pardon me. So the panelists are here already. So let's begin. We request Mr. Nitin to lead the conversation. Thank you.
Thanks. We have one panelist who should join us, but I guess we can start. That's fine. I think he should be here, but I guess maybe I can request a few of you to come in the front. There are enough chairs if you would like to be here. That's fine. That's not an issue. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I think we have people at the back, but they'll be able to hear us and see us, hopefully. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very interesting session. This is basically how do you redefine customer engagement, and that's an important topic for any organization. And what we're going to talk about today is how do you really move from notification to conversations. This whole idea of why we should actually go ahead and have this panel was one, as a provider of communication, it's important because that's our business, but at the same time, we also have people who have to go ahead and communicate with you, and then, technology that enables that communication. So on this panel, you have a very eclectic group of people who will be able to go ahead and give you a lot of insights on what's going on. From my experience, what I've seen is that over the last 2 decades, the backbone of banking was notification, and one-way notification, and if you didn't get the notification, you used to worry, right? Now, over the last 2 or 3 years, that's changed significantly, and it's moved into what we call as conversations. And the way it's changed is that if you're now not conversing with the bank, then therefore you feel that the bank doesn't know you, and therefore that's not the right service provider, and you have so many options, right? So today we thought that it'll be good for 2 of our esteemed customers, as well as people who have really defining the next era of conversation, to give you some examples. This time, GFF also talks about AI, a lot of AI being discussed, and how AI is really transforming that conversation. How do you really personalize it? There's also the aspect of regulatory requirements. You can use a lot of AI, but then you also have to live within the regulatory framework. How do you make sure that the data sovereignty and other things are taken care of, right? So without much ado, maybe I'll start with you, Krishna. So, Krishna, you're from DBS, and it's a day in life for you, right? What I just talked about, how do you really get customers to converse? So my first question, to you is that how do you see conversational channels enhancing customer trust and loyalty compared to traditional marketing, activities that you do?
Okay, thanks Nitin, and good afternoon, everyone. Post-lunch sessions are always challenging, but thanks for your time and attention. Before I can deep dive on the specific ask from Nitin, any guesses in terms of, we are a bank, right, DBS Bank, any guesses in terms of the number of customer signals that I have access to? Customer signals essentially means things that I can act upon, So I have made a transaction, a salary credit has happened, a payment has gone out. These are all customer signals that one can act on. Any idea or any guesses, random guesses, in terms of how much of such customer signals do I have? There is also this popular meme going on that Google knows more about us than we know about ourselves, So think about a bank and the access to data that we have, right? So without killing time here, so essentially, At a bank level, I have access to more than 15,000 such signals that I can act upon. So think about it, reflect on that for a moment, right? So when we talk about conversational impact on the way things are getting shaped up in this industry, think about the canvas, the white canvas that we have, all enabled through the computational power that are currently in our hands, right? So when it comes to DBS, our transformation journey actually started with the basic. And being the first speaker, maybe I'll just build on the basic that is required to tap onto this immense potential that we have. And that basic is data. How well are you capturing the data? How well are you synthesizing it? How well are you making sense out of it? And therefore, for a DBS point of view, even before AI was the buzzword, we had something called as ADA, ADA, which stands for, and we love our acronyms, right? But ADA stands for Advancing DBS Through AI. So that's where the entire data pool sits. Now, how do I build structures on top of that, which essentially becomes more meaningful when it comes to engaging customers? So that's the basic that all the organization needs, Nitin. I think the data, how you're treating it, how responsible are you, and mind you, being a bank, I am a regulated entity. So the challenges are multifold when it comes to bank. The usage of data. So we have something called as a pure framework around which the entire data culture is built upon, right? Pure stands for purposeful data, how purposeful it is, how useful is it, how respectful are you when it comes to usage of data, and how easy is it to explain our customers in terms of where did you get that data from. So some of these principles really help me to build these conversational capabilities, and maybe we'll talk more once we finish one round with the panelists.
No, absolutely, and a very important point, Krishna, that you pointed out, and I'm sure that Anand is just itching to go on this topic, which is so close to his heart. So Anand, Krishna pointed out data and pure data is important. So how can analytics from data and conversational channels work together in a meaningful way to go ahead and create customer journeys? So what have you been doing?
So essentially, see, we are a lender. So like in the banking world, even we get access to tons and tons of information. Now, where all this can really, really come together is that then you're able to just figure out what's the right offer for the customer, what is best for him or her, as you perceive it, obviously. And then the channels of interaction ensure that at least now it's a two-way street rather than earlier, financial services were essentially a one-way street for most customers, right? Financial services on top, customers below, and yehi milega used to be the approach for a very, very long time. But now with the advent of so much of information, and thanks to Google and Meta, can I say Meta in your presence? Perfect. Okay. So with just so many channels of access and information available, obviously it's a conversation. And remember, people buy from people. So inherently, we as humans are wired to buy from humans rather than machines. But what AI has now done is that somewhere at the back end, you really, really don't know whether it's a human or a machine, and it's just getting there. So somewhere, thanks to that kind of technology, in a way that buying process is going back to what humans were anyway wired for, talking to humans. So, but information just makes it easier to have that conversation.
Absolutely, a very important point, and I think from customers to now coming on to the ecosystem. So, Abhinav, I'll probably put this question across to you that where the ecosystem where obviously Anand from HDB and Krishna from DBS really go ahead and use the technology and the providers of this technology. So, from your perspective, what role does ecosystem really play in making this very real for banks?
Hello. Yeah. So I think, Nitin, it's a great question to ask because this ecosystem is based on top of partnerships, right? And that's what makes this ecosystem work. The way we look at it is Google brings in experience of creating platforms which can reach billions of users, and partners such as Sinch provide the bridge to the financial industry. And what do I mean by that? So there are three parts to it if you look at it. The first part is we all speak different languages, right? So if you look at Google, we would be adept at creating secure, scalable, and feature-rich platforms which can reach out to billions of Android users, right? And when you look at partners such as Sinch, they would have experiences of working with complex regulatory environments and probably understand the legacy IT environments of banks, right? So for us, they are a translation layer of understanding the bank's requirements and helping us map it to a channel like RCS. So that's one. The second one is, at the end of the day, we can create these wonderful channels, but what financial institutions want to do is they essentially want to serve their consumers better, right? And you want to innovate. Every time a new messaging protocol is being launched, you don't need to be experts at that, right? That is where these channels, people like Sinch come in, wherein they would have the tools and expertise to help you launch these experiences, conversational experiences, rather quickly compared to somebody doing it on their own. And the third way the ecosystem role comes in is that they are the front end to the ecosystem. They're speaking to you day in, day out, right? You're speaking to them day in, day out. And hence we get insights and what does the industry want. So that feeds into a roadmap on how do we build our products and services so that end result is something which is purpose built for the industry and is secure and is trusted by the industry, right? So I think the way we look at it is probably Google provides the platforms and people such as Sinch and carriers, we have some carriers in the room, they provide the rails to the financial industry. That's how I look at it.
Absolutely, and I think if I were to just add that typically in banking parlance, it becomes even more crucial for us to become the extension for any bank or banking financial services company from a data security and make sure that we're able to address the same kind of governance rules that they carry. Okay. Now, coming back to you, Krishna, a very interesting aspect, I thought, which I'm also an end user, right, of a bank. So, so from a customer experience lens, what are the biggest consumer shifts that you've seen, and what role does AI play? What role does AI play in those conversations? So shift and how do you really use AI?
Yeah, so Nitin, if I were to reflect in terms of the changes that has happened in the way we communicate to the customers in the last, let's say, 2 decades, from sending a one-way communication with limited access to what one needs, to the kind of information that I have that I can preempt based on the life stage and various other signals as to what a customer may actually be looking for. And then when a relevant, contextual, and highly personalized message gets delivered, that's the wow or the delight that the customer gets. Now, this capability is there, right? Be it with AI, be it with machine learning, be it pure rule-based engine that I run. I mean, I don't even need to go to the AI level, right? So some of these capabilities are there. But also to burst the bubble a little bit, it's not just about having intelligent nudges to the customers. Especially when it comes to banking, I think the role of a human is still very relevant. And let me elaborate that through an example. So we use a lot of what we call as NBNs. As I said, we love our acronyms. So NBNs is next best nudge. And we have something called as next best conversation. So NBNs are sent to the customer. NBCs are sent to my RMs. Now, if I run a pilot and I do only NBNs, highly contextualized, relevant, with the hope that the product gets an uptake, I do see some result there. But when I combine NBNs with my NBCs, the outcome is far better, right? So banking as a space and what services that we offer, I think they still crave for a human intervention, a validation. So while AI has enabled us multiple intelligent nudges-based exercises and pilots that we run, the role of a human, especially in a banking context and some of the specialized products that we offer, that cannot be ignored. So how has it changed? I think the philosophy that we have at DBS Bank is that AI becomes your co-pilot, essentially allows you to do your work better. And that I have seen it with my RMs who is pitching a product to my customer, or maybe a call center guy who is interacting with an irate customer who has some grievance, right? So I think those are the interventions that we effectively look at when it comes to AI and enhancing customer experience overall.
Very, very interesting point. Frankly, I wasn't aware about the NB and NBCs. Good to know this.
I just want to add, I love that you said NBC and not next best action. Action is more like, I will do this. Conversation is good.
Yeah, that's good. Different thinking, huh, by the way. So Anand, coming to you, Krishna gave his perspective around, AI is relevant, but we have to have human interaction and other things, which is obviously very important. From your perspective, looking at AI-driven insights and how conversations really get done. So we heard one perspective from NB and NBCs, really both from a customer and a relationship manager perspective. But from your perspective, right, considering the size and the volume of interactions that you get, how is that shaping the engagement in your industry?
So, okay, I'll speak from my hat as a lender as well as a banker to the common Indian. So, as in an earlier role, my core consumer was a guy who was opening a bank account in the middle of nowhere in, say, Mirzapur. Okay, so that's typically where we really did most of our business. Now, where all this is helping is that, and courtesy a lot of the tech tools, is just it's simplifying things. It's just making it easier for this guy to reach out. Also, this consumer, and consumers inherently may not be very articulate, right? So they will struggle to put everything in the right context. They will be a little bit here and there. But all this just from the guy who's ultimately going to go out and service, what, I hate to even use the word AI at times because a lot of it is still ML. But just what it does is it just, brings everything down to simple 3 or 4 levers that the guy who's going to give the service can start working with. So that's one, big thing. Secondly, because this consumer is getting exposed by media because of so many other reasons to all these changes, they are adapting to all this for financial services. And financial services, while data has always been there, somewhere it's been very scary for customers to adapt to new things because it's a question of money, right? I mean, one mistake and try getting some a refund back or something like that, and it is a challenge. But courtesy, exposure everywhere else, and the fact that all this is becoming a little less threatening, it's allowing this guy to be a little all over the place in a conversation. And because you have the ability to just still figure out what's the core issue at hand, just elevates the guy's confidence in you as a brand and his willingness to then accordingly do more and get his problem sorted.
I think a very important point, and I just want to add a perspective on this one. As you said, right, it's a lot ML and not AI. So you may hear a lot around the AI and other things, but the reality is when it comes down to regulated industry, you have to be very careful in terms of how you do it, right? For example, yes, AI could actually go solve that problem where you don't need any underwriters, but the accuracy is far away from a regular underwriting process. So where do you apply AI also becomes very important. The other part was around when you basically go ahead and really look at ability to serve the underserved, right? That it gets improved because now with the help of tools that we have, language is no longer a barrier, and you have ability to do voice and other things, right? That becomes
Other than
easier.
language also making sense of whatever the person is trying to say. So few years ago, it was difficult to read that email and make sense, but then models learn over time and you just get a little more accurate. So even the customer feels a little more comfortable about it, that, okay, this guy actually can understand what I'm trying to say. And that's what builds trust. And ultimately, the bedrock of financial services is trust. Yeah. Products are commoditized, services commoditized. I mean, tech also makes everything commodity. So this just ensures that the guy trusts you a little more because the perception is that he or she believes that you understand them a little better. And that's the game, really.
Absolutely. So, Abhinav, coming to you, you heard that conversation is key. Everybody wants to do it. So how come it's not happening all over the place, and what's the barrier? What do you think is stopping banks or financial services institutions really adopt this and make it mainstream rather than as something additional and yet to become mainstream?
Yeah. So I think I would start with saying it's not a technology barrier. Um, I mean, if you look at it, I look at it as three things. One is mindset, one is momentum, and the third one would be measurement. So, I mean, so the way messaging has been looked at, right? So I don't know how many people over here know that the first SMS was sent in 1995. It was Merry Christmas. And we're in 2025, and the technology is exactly the same, right? It's black and white, it's 160 characters, but it works, right? And it's been used by all businesses across the world in the same manner for the last 30 years. So it's been looked as a cost center, right? Wherein you have to send an OTP or you have to send a notification and you've done the job, right? So it was a cost center, right? The mindset shift is how do I start moving from that perception of this being a cost center to an engagement hub where messaging as a channel can drive loyalty and revenue for me as an organization. So to give you an example, if I receive my credit card bill, it would be your payment is of say 15,000 rupees is pending. It's due on say X October. Please pay to save penalty. Now the same message in a richer channel could be sent with a card which explains the details of your bill, right? It says your credit card statement in your messaging inbox, native messaging inbox. You are seeing the details of what is the minimum amount to be paid, date to be paid by, what is your previous outstanding, etc. All details in the messaging interface, and then 3 call to action buttons which tells you download your bill, right? Download your credit card bill, or pay a minimum amount with a click of a button, or pay the entire bill, right? And along with that, right, once a person interacts with any of those messages, you could look at which button has the user engaged with. So as an organization, the organization would know, right? I have invested in sending this message to an organization, to my consumer, and this is the revenue it's resulted in. So then it starts moving from a conversation from, I spent this much on this, instead I spent this much on this given channel, and I got this much in return, right? So it changes to an ROI conversation. The second one would be, of course, the momentum piece. It is a new, I mean, as I said earlier, any new messaging protocol, I mean, systems and IT environments are already complex. Who wants to bring in something new, right? But the good news is RCS is an evolution to SMS, right? And I mean, some of the rails which are needed to run your messaging services can be extended to RCS. So you can have a single API which providers have, wherein whatever API you as an organization use to send messages, SMSs can be upgraded to support RCS as well. Of course, I will not speak about starting with AI and NLP related conversations because that's utopian. Really, one would start with simple guided journeys because it's also a change for your consumers, right? They start seeing something new in their inbox. So you have to guide them through the journey and keep it simple. And the third one would be the measurement thing. Again, when we sent an SMS in the earlier avatar, it was a black box. You knew, of course, whether it was delivered or not. But beyond that, you did not know whether the user read it or not, right? So let me give you an example now. How does that change from a marketing perspective? Say you had a wealth management firm which sends a message for a new fund which comes out, right? And you send a message, new fund is out, small cap fund, buy now, right? Or invest now. Most people would generally see low engagement rates, and they will not know how many people read it and what they did it. Now, if you send it using a richer messaging channel, how the fund could send it as you announce the fund, you can have a rich card which explains the fund. You can have another rich card like a carousel where you can explain these are the risk parameters, these are the details of the fund we are invested in. And then you had 3 buttons, for example. The first button could be download brochure, right? Details of the fund. The second button could be request a call back, right? And the third button could be open my app or something like that. Now, what you're doing is that you will have signals as a business for all 3 of these, right? So if they have engaged with that message, you would know that these people have read this message, seen this card. So there is awareness, right? So from a marketing perspective, they are aware of the proposition you have. The second one is that if they've downloaded the brochure, right, there's consideration, right? So this guy is slightly more interested. And then, of course, if they've requested a call back, it's a warm lead and you can get back to them. So it's not just a cost center, it is a active engagement or lead generation channel for you. Of course, I mean, from a perspective, how do you get started? I would look at high impact cases, start small, but experiment a lot, iterate a lot. The beauty of the channel, of these channels is they give you back signals on how are people engaging with them and allow you to iterate and get better.
Yeah, I think I must say that Abhinav is being a bit humble, but from my perspective, the way I see it is that in the audience, if you have an app, if you can raise your hand, if you have an app, your company has an app. Anybody? Do you have an app? Yeah, one, maybe a few others, right? So how many users have downloaded your app? Maybe if you would say 5 million is a good number. No? 10 million? So it's based on consumer or business? You decide. Consumer is better because you'll get more numbers. But 10,000 plus. 10,000, okay. Yes, that's also good. But there are 60 million SMEs in the world, in India. But what I was trying to get to is really, you have the ability, if you were to choose RCS as your way of engagement or the model of engagement, they've gone ahead and created technology where your entire app can be rendered through RCS, which means that the entire journey of buying, doing service, anything that you want to communicate can be done through RCS. This is called a concept called WebView. You'll get to know more about it once you do that research. But imagine now, without any effort, and downloading apps and other things is a cost of acquisition, customer acquisition, people don't want to spend money. Without doing that much of an effort, you get 600 million people in India, right, where this can be shown. So I don't think in the audience, even we don't have that kind of depth in reach. So this is the capability that you should be aware in terms of how technology is changing, the level playing field for enterprises, right?
Yeah. So if I were to add, Nitin, to what you're saying, and to the 3 factors that Abhinav gave, see, the 4th factor for me is cost.
Yeah.
Tech is not cheap, period. So all your RCS capabilities and all, until and unless I have outcomes, measurable outcomes, and especially in the short term, right? So tech, I mean, to your original question, yes, what is stopping us from adoption?
Yeah.
Tech is not cheap.
Yeah.
Let's table that very clearly.
And that's where we come in, Krishna, to make it easier. But it'll be good if you can, Krishna, coming back to you, if you can maybe share with the audience, any example where conversational messaging either helped retain a customer or in the acquisition space. So it'll be good, how conversation messaging is changing. Maybe they can also use it as a way to, change the game for their organization.
No, I can build on the NBNs and NBC example that I mentioned. And for a marketeer, actually it's a delight to see the outcomes, measurable outcomes, Otherwise, long gone are the days when we would just stop at saying that I have built X% awareness or Y% consideration. Or, 100 people are still preferring your thing. Now with these capabilities, I have actual business outcomes that I can measure and report back. And therefore, when I say, while tech is not cheap, but the more the marketeer gets into this zone of measuring outcomes, feeding it back to the business, and showing a lift with the promise that there is scale that you can achieve, I think then the sky is the limit. So what we do, come to see what we do in the bank as a business, they're very limited product, right? 5 or 6. It's not complicated, it's not rocket science. I give you a savings account, a loan, a credit card maybe, and there is insurance and investment, right? So from a bank's point of view, what we really do is, in terms of how intelligently can we make these conversations, not just intelligently, but also make it contextual and relevant in the overall context that a customer is in. So for the NBNs and NBC example that I mentioned, I almost run more than 500 campaigns every single month on the base that I have with a single point agenda of deepening my relationship with them by either asking them to invest more with us for their benefit or cross-selling them different products, right? And at the end of that, the engine is so well structured that whatever activities that I do, whatever spends that I commit to, at the end of the day, I have a dashboard that shows the outcomes that I've achieved. And for sure, there is a definite lift that I find. So we have measurements such as a test and a control group. So I do a few things in the test group, see how the control group is behaving, and that's how you create confidence in the system that these technologies, the investment that's going in behind it, and the tools that we are using is yielding result for you, right? So I think that's the way the entire landscape is changing. And if you are a marketing sitting here in this hall, I think this is the best time to be a marketeer. Amazing abilities in terms of various aspects that we are asked to deal with, right? From creative creations, the Gen AIs are really transforming the way we are looking at creatives. Then how do you segment and reach out through highly personalized communication? And the most important leg, which is the final leg, how are you measuring and reporting it back and giving the confidence in the system that it can scale up? I think that's the beauty of this entire spectrum and all coming it together and see magic unfold.
I think very, very good point. And what I have basically experienced, from the interactions we have in the banking financial service industries is also a way to pre-qualify. So, you're not really aiming in the dark, and you have the ability to go ahead and pre-qualify. So if somebody is really looking for a home loan, 3 questions answered, and therefore now that's a prospect that you can go after, right? Or if somebody is looking for a credit card, the 3 or 4 questions that you ask. And it's not very difficult because the person, you're not really intruding into privacy. You're basically saying, look, if you'd like, this is something that we have on offer. You like it, say yes, and then we'll connect with you, right? It's much better way of, engaging, right?
Absolutely, Nitin. And building on that, right? I mentioned about the N number of signals that I have. It just makes us more intelligent in terms of the way we service our end customer. Yeah, it's personalized, it's relevant, and it at the end of the day delights the customer experience. So to your point, if there is a credit card and a pre-approved credit card, I mean, why would a customer, I would ask them to fill some 10 pages and asking them for all the details and all. So I think that's the way the entire landscape is changing. And as I said, it's magical at times, some of the capabilities that we can see unfolding in front of us.
Yeah, and on a different point of view, and I'll come to you in terms of we talked about doing a lot of things and really going out data and this and that, and we would like to generate a lot of leads or do all those things, right? But in a banking financial services industry where it's highly regulated, what is your perspective on the risk and compliance that we need to be aware of when you have these kind of technology and tools, and with the whole concern on data privacy comes into play? So what's your view on that?
So, see, my view has always been that a lot of these controls are actually good, right? So one, regulation, and especially I think in an Indian context, and believe me when I say this, our regulators are amongst the most sensible bunch of guys you can deal with. It actually helps because there is a consumer out there. A lot of stuff can go wrong with him or her, sorry about this, in the industry that we are in. So this actually just makes everybody safe in the ecosystem. There is enough and more data that is anyway coming in to run any kind of model that you would want. Even with this whole perception that, with data privacy, you can't do this, you can't do that. No problem, you can still do a lot. I think we have enough and more really. And now with this whole DPDP Act and all, which is kind of likely to come in, yes, there will be certain operational challenges. There will be, you have to get adjusted to a new way of working at times because there is a consent every time, there's a measurement, you've got to take this, store, there will have its moving parts. But actually, it helps. That's one. Secondly, it actually, the consumer starts really trusting you more because you're a little more compliant with all this. So I think as the BFSI world, the marketer actually has to look at all this as an aid and a tool rather than saying, oh, look, what's going to happen, is this an impediment? This is not. There is just so much of information already. You can run all your models based on a lot of, See, okay, the real fact in a lot of models is that, there could be 500 variables. Ultimately, the variables that discriminate are going to be 3 or 4. Okay, so you're going to be pretty accurate any which ways. So, in a way, just enjoy the changes that come in, build around it, and move on.
Yeah, easy for a data analyst to say that.
Reality.
but fair point. Now coming to you, Abhinav, and I guess maybe this is a easy answer or a hard answer that you got to decide. But what we've seen is that a lot of the conversational messaging that's been happening, right, is a lot around promotion, right? But as consumers, we want more conversation. So what's your view in terms of looking at how can RCS really move into the daily lives of consumers rather than just be a promotional channel?
So it's a pertinent question, and we discussed the challenge. Anyways, so with the RCS, we're trying to move from a black and white TV world to a color TV world in messaging. And I think going forward, we don't see this only as a marketing channel. Of course, if you've got a rich media channel, it will be used for promotions. But the way we look at it is, from future perspective, it's essentially a secure and interactive layer for your day-to-day interactions, right? It's a secure layer for your day-to-day interactions. And what I mean by that is it becomes your actionable inbox. So there'll be more than 500 million native inboxes, SMS inboxes which support RCS today. So it becomes your actionable inbox in terms of where you can manage your day-to-day admin activities. For example, if you've gotten a fraud alert on your SMS inbox, you just have to click a button to say whether this is a fraudulent transaction or it's secure. Or you could get your credit card bills or utility bills, and at a click of a button, you can pay those or view those. Or you could have your doctor's appointment, wherein if you want to reschedule the appointment, the doctor can send you a notification. You click it, it gets added to your Google Calendar, or you can reschedule it. So making your day-to-day interactions easier. The second would be a trusted channel for interacting with businesses. I think, I don't need to preach to the converted, but trust is important. And in RCS, we do not allow any channel, any business to be onboarded without verification. That takes time. But we want to be sure that when your consumers are engaging with a given bot or agent, they can interact with trust that I'm talking to a proper legitimate business. And of course, as you as a brand, when you're talking to somebody, it's a valid customer. So a trusted channel for interaction between businesses and consumers. And the third one, of course, would be driving conversational commerce. In terms of India is a mobile-first market in terms of access to digital, and hence how to use this channel to drive digital interactions. It can be from a perspective of paying your utility bills, or perhaps completing end-to-end journeys on the same channel. For example, you could apply for a loan, submit documents, get approval, all in the same conversations. In the end, the way we look at it is that the channel should be able to break down your consumer journeys into conversations, as you said, but conversations which are interactive, intuitive, and in a secure manner. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, a very, very important point, right? It has to be interactive and it has to be relevant. And I guess, how we've really gone ahead and really understood from our panelists is that one-way messaging, the era of one-way notification is over, right? If you still think that that's not the case, then maybe you're not in the right place in your business, right? So it's very important for you to understand that consumers really want to connect and they want to converse. As you put it, that people buy from people, so people buy from people who converse, organizations that converse. The other part is that the availability of technology like RCS gives you a very strong conversational style connection to your consumers. Whether it is related to being able to go ahead and complete those transactions, or going ahead and giving more information, or even as simple as knowing whether the person or he or she is interested in the products and services that you're pushing through, right? Finally, I think from a overall perspective, adoption of technology, as you know, Krishna and Anand put it, you have to be aware of what you're trying to do. A lot of these things that are out there are simply using the right set of data and being able to go ahead and identify the right signals, right? The NBN and the NBCs, I'm sure I'll remember. But thank you so much, Krishna, Anand, and Abhinav for this interesting session. And I'm sure if there are questions, we're around. I get a signal from from the hall manager that our time is over. But thank you so much for being a patient audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin.
From yet another interesting session, our moderator and speakers, thank you so much.